Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video I'm going to show you how to turn the free card making downloads from my website, or in fact card making downloads from any website, into a print then cut file that you can load into Cricut Design Space and then have your Cricut machine cut out all the little bits for you so that you don't have to do it by hand. I have a wide range of card making downloads available for free on my website at www.craftwithsarah.com, and I'll put a link in the description of this video, and this mermaid design is one of the ones that are on there for free. So I've gone ahead and I've already downloaded it, and all the designs on my website, they come as PDFs. Now, you probably know that you can't upload PDFs directly into Design Space, so the first thing you'll need to do if you've got a PDF file is convert it into a JPEG or a PNG. On a lot of websites where you can get similar files to this, they might already come in JPEGs or PNGs, in which case you don't need to do this step, but if it's a PDF then you do. So I've already gone ahead and downloaded the file. And then if you go on Google and type in PDF to JPEG converter, you'll find lots of links on there. I'm using one called pdf to jpeg.net. Again, I'll put a link in the description. If you're on a phone or a tablet, you might need to do something a little bit different to convert your PDF. Alright, so I've got this website up and I'm just going to go into choose a PDF file. I've got my PDF here, so I just double click on it. And then in the quality box on the right hand side, choose excellent. So you want it to be the best it can be. And then click convert PDF to JPEG, and that'll go ahead and do the conversion. When it's finished, you'll get a page that looks like this, and then you can either view or download. We want to click the download link, and that's going to go ahead and download the JPEG version to my computer. So here it is. This is now a JPEG that I can load into Design Space. So here's Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to click the upload button and then click upload image. I'm going to drag that JPEG file in and then let go with my mouse. So make sure you use the JPEG one, not the PDF, because the PDF one will not work. So this is the JPEG one, and then I'm going to choose complex from the box which comes up here and then press continue. Now, if I was to print then cut this with my Cricut as it is, it would just cut the rectangle around all the edge of the file, so it wouldn't actually cut out all the little mermaids, which is no good. So we need to tell the Cricut which bits we want to cut out, and the easiest way to do that is to remove the white background. If it's really zoomed in like mine is, you can use the plus arrow on the top right to show the whole screen. Over on the top left, you've got a little magic wand tool. Click on that and then press the white, and it will take a few seconds, but eventually it will go ahead and remove that white background and you'll see a checkerboard instead. So now if I was to print then cut this, the Cricut machine would cut around the edge of all the mermaids because there's no white background anymore. So checkerboard means see-through or clear, so your Cricut will not cut anything that's checkerboard, it will cut around everything that sits on top of that checkerboard. But there's still a little bit of cleaning up we want to do, because if we printed this now, your Cricut would try and cut out all of this copyright text in the top right, and we don't want it to do that because it's not going to be able to, it's too thin, and we're not going to want to put that on our card anyway. So in the top left again, press the eraser tool in the middle and then drag the slider, which is the size of your eraser, probably nearly to the top. You can then go through and erase all the bits on the sheet that you don't want to cut out with your Cricut machine. Now my Design Space is being very slow and laggy when I'm doing this. I think it's because I'm recording my screen at the same time, because normally it's fine. You can see how slow it's moving. But I'm just going through and erasing all the bits that I'm not going to put on my card. So the bits that I don't want my Cricut to cut out. So that's this text here on the top right. And then if I scroll down to the bottom, I don't need this red box either, so I can just erase that. Alright, so I've erased that red box, and now if I zoom out again, I can see that this is ready for me to send it into Cricut. So hit the continue button on the bottom, and then make sure you've got save as a print then cut image selected, which is the first option. And if you want to, you can give it a name or you can leave it with the default one, and then hit save. It might take a little while to load because this is a high quality file, so Design Space is going to have to work quite hard to get it into your project. When it's loaded, you'll see this screen, and then you can click on the picture of the design you've put in there and then press Insert Images. And here it is. Now you can see at the minute I've got a warning triangle in my layers panel, and it's telling me that the image is too large. That's because Cricut Print Then Cut can only cut a maximum of 6.75 by 9.25 inches, so we need to make this smaller so it will fit. One hack to make this really easy is to go into Shapes and choose a square. Move it over here so you can see. Tick the box which looks like a padlock to open up the padlock, and then in the width and height at the top, type 6.75 inches as the width and 9.25 as the height. And you can see this is the maximum size that Cricut can cut. I'm really zoomed out at the moment, which is why it looks quite small. And this is the size the Print Then Cut is currently trying to work at, so that's obviously not going to work. So what I can do is click and drag this to make it smaller. If I just move the rectangle layer underneath so you can see a bit better, I could just resize this so that the whole thing fits on, but then the card front is going to be quite small because this rectangle, you know, it's not as big as A4 or US letter, so my card will end up being quite small, and I might not necessarily want that. So if you're looking to make a specific size card, or the one that it's actually been designed at, so I think this one is about 5 by 7 inches, a way to make sure you can get it exactly the right size is to go into Shapes again and choose another square. We're going to do the same thing, so untick the padlock and then set it to the size card you want to make. So I will go 5 inches wide and 7 tall. Now you can drag your Print Then Cut image so it sits over the top, and then resize it so that the square, the main card front, is the same size as that rectangle you've just done. So there we go, that's pretty accurate. If I zoom in, you can see it's a little bit out, but basically that is now going to be a 5 by 7 inch card front, which is what I want to make. So I can go ahead and delete that. But now we have a problem that our Print Then Cut image is too big, so it's going to go outside of that maximum size. So what we need to do is cut up the Print Then Cut image in Design Space so that it will print on 2 separate sheets of paper, and then we can have it at this larger size that we want. So go into Shapes one more time and choose the square. We need to cut this into different sections. So drag a square around some of the image, and then right click and duplicate and make another one that covers up approximately half of the image. So you need to make sure that you're not cutting anything in half. So I wouldn't do that, for example, because I've cut this mermaid up with the square. I want to make sure I'm only covering entire sections of the image. And when I'm happy that I've got a good selection, I can select both of the squares by clicking one in my layers panel, pressing Ctrl and clicking the other one, and then welding them together by clicking weld on the bottom. Now I can click on that welded image and then press Ctrl and choose the Print Then Cut image, and then press Slice. Now what this has done, if I hide these first 2 slice results by clicking on the eye, is it's made me 2 separate bits. So now I will have this, and if I went to make it, it would print on 2 separate bits of paper. However, it's still not quite right. If you look, I've still got the warning triangle, so this one is still too big. so I need to slice it again. You don't need to keep the grayed out slice results, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete those. Again, go into shapes and choose a square. Make sure you've got the little tick box pressed, and then go ahead and do the same thing again. So I'm making a square which is going to go around all the bits on the left of this layer. This time I only need one rectangle, and I'll just hide the other layers too, it's not confusing. So I've put this rectangle over all of the bits of the mermaid on the left, so I can select that one and the mermaid layer and press slice. Again, we don't need these first two, so I can delete those, but now I've got this cut as a separate part. So now it's in 3 separate pieces, and I don't have that warning triangle on any of them. So I can go ahead and just zoom out and then hide that rectangle because I don't actually want to cut that out. And now if I go ahead and click Make It, it's split my image onto 3 separate sheets. So I'll need 3 bits of paper in my printer. But when I've printed it out, it will be 5 by 7 inches and all of the layers will beautifully fit. Now, one big warning thing, if I just hit cancel, once you've cut your sheet into different pieces, you need to be really careful that you don't accidentally change the size on any of them. Because if I was to, for example, change and do that, it would mean once this is printed out, my other layers aren't going to fit on top of it anymore because they'll be really big. So do be careful that you do not change the size once you've split your original sheet into the different pieces. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and click Make It and then press Continue. And it's going to complain that my Cricut isn't connected, but that's fine. To print it, click into Send to Printer and it will search for your printer. And when it's found it, you'll be able to select it. Make sure you press this Use System dialog. And what this will do is when you click print, it will open your printer settings. Okay, so when you get this option, click into preferences. It will look different depending on if you're on a PC or a Mac and what version of things you've got. But you can choose the type of paper. So I'm going to use glossy photo paper. And then in print quality, make sure you choose high. And then go ahead and follow it through and do all your printing. And once it's printed, then follow the steps in Design Space to cut it out with your Cricut. If you've never done Print Then Cut before, or if you're not quite sure how it works, I do have a separate video on how to do that where I walk it through in much more detail. So I'll add the link to that in the description below this video, so go and check that out if you're not sure. But otherwise, go ahead and get everything printed and cut, and then I'll show you how to assemble the card. So now that's all cut out, I'm left with all the pieces, and you can see when you do this how beautifully the Cricut machine cuts out all the different layers. So for example, this flower, the petals on it are perfect and it's so small. You wouldn't have been able to cut it anywhere near this good with a pair of scissors. And that is why converting these types of designs to Print Then Cut and doing it on your Cricut is just such a cool thing. I wish I'd discovered this years ago because it's going to make card making so much easier. So now I need to assemble this into the finished card. So I'll put my layers to one side for the time being. And then I've got a card blank. So this is an A5 card blank. And I've cut a piece of card. And I've also got the main card front here, so I need to stick all this together first. So I'm just going to turn over the main card front and add a bit of double-sided tape to the back, and then attach that to the middle of my pretty paper. And then do the same thing again to put this on the card. So you can see this was double-sided paper. It's actually from a Christmas pack, so this is all Nutcracker ballet themed on the back. But I'm going to stick this to the top of the card. And I know there's a gap at the bottom, but I'm going to fill that in towards the end. So there we go. Now we can start adding all the different decoupage layers. So how this works is you take the biggest layers first, and then we're going to stick them together using foam pads to create a 3D effect. This design has quite a lot of layers on it, so I'm going to use these foam pads, which are really, really thin. They're actually not a lot thicker than just a normal piece of card. And for when you're card making, that is quite useful, because if it's too thick, it will be really expensive to post. So using thinner foam is a nice way to make sure it doesn't get too thick. So this is the next biggest piece of the mermaid, which is the one where she sat on the beach. So it's got the sand in it. And I'm just going to put some of these foam pads all over the back so that I can stick it to my card. You want to add a good amount of foam pads so it's going to have a nice stick, because this is quite a big piece of card. And make sure you, as well as going around the edges, you put some in the middle, because otherwise it might sag under the weight of all the other layers if there's nothing in there to stabilise it. So I've stuck them on there, so now I just need to peel the backs off. Alright, so all the sticky bits are now showing. I can bring my card in, and then I just need to stick this directly on top so that the pattern lines up with what's underneath. And that's the first layer of the decoupage done. So now I just need to repeat that process for all the other bits of the mermaid. So the next one will be this one, which is the next biggest. And once I've done that one, it'll be this one. And then I'll just keep going through all the layers until they're all stuck on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then jump back into the video. So here's my finished layers all stuck together. If I turn this around, you can see how they're all building up. And it's creating a lovely 3D effect on the card with all of those decoupage layers, making the mermaid pop out from the front. So this card's nearly finished, but I just want to add a little something along the bottom. And I've got this self-adhesive ribbon, so I think I'll use the blue one. And then just stick this along, just to fill in that gap a little bit. There we go. And just trim that off. Oh, I've managed to stick it to my table. That was clever. There we are. Save that for another craft project. And then I've also got these little real shells, which I was considering sticking on, but I think they might be a little bit big. I think it's maybe a bit much. Yeah, I think I'll leave those out. It was a nice idea, but I don't think it'll work. I might have to have a little dig around to see what I can add, just as a little something extra. Maybe that, maybe one of these flowers. I don't know, I'll have a think about that. But anyway, this card is now pretty much done, apart from some extra fiddling, which I will probably do. So I hope you've enjoyed learning how to take card making downloads into Design Space and print them out on your printer and get your Cricut machine to cut them all out for the ultimate, kind of cheating, but really mostly just clever way of making your handmade cards. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for loads more card making videos, especially ones that you can make with your Cricut machine. Thank you for watching.